There comes a moment when you've exhausted all your options while simultaneously coming across a product that reinvents your notion about what an honest and high-quality company looks like. The Healing Rose was the catalyst to that very moment for me. The Healing Rose Company is a female-owned Massachusetts CBD company based out of Newburyport that prides themselves in using only the best USDA-certified organically sourced ingredients for their vast line of therapeutic products. Their line stretches from lip balms, tinctures, skin balms, roll-on oils, and bath products. Their transparency places them above the rest with third-party tested results showcasing their intolerance to toxic pesticides, solvents, metals, and harmful elements. They provide full-spectrum CBD in many of their products, excluding their tinctures, which carry a broad-spectrum profile, ideal for not having to worry about any low-level THC, which is common for many CBD products. That one's my favorite, and it's good on the palate. Full-spectrum means that they extract from the hemp plant an array of different therapeutic cannabinoids along with CBD and their profile terpenes. The combination results in a greater outcome of healing and relaxation for any individual's needs. Whether you are an athlete looking for any recovery advantage, a patient in need of some relief to remind yourself that you are still a warrior, or someone who sees the frontiers of life with a little reserve and want to calm the mental storms that keep you from personally exploring, the Healing Rose CBD Company is here for your full body and mind optimization. Please visit thehealingroseco.com to explore their diverse line of products and support one of New England's best rising stars in an industry where ethics are fundamental, and a company like this will only be found sitting at the throne of it all. Use the code SAGAS, S-A-G-A-S, for 10% off your purchase. Again, visit thehealingroseco.com and use the promo code SAGAS at checkout for 10% off your purchase. To the many martial artists, entrepreneurs, dreamers, and thinkers, how often, for your own sake, would you love a symbolic reminder of your mentality and the perfect dichotomy to match? Murder Nerd is an independent clothing apparel line that represents the sharp, relentless focus towards personal growth and athletics. It embodies the vitality of their creative owners and the network of people who run on the same frequency. Why not elevate your frequency in comfort and style? Visit www.murdernerdsfitness.com for their personal line of shirt and hat wear. Enter the promo code SAGAS, S-A-G-A-S, for 10% off your purchase. Again, visit murdernerdfitness.com and enter the promo code SAGAS for 10% off your purchase. Bingo, bingo. Wow. I can't even believe it. 3 years, I think, since the last podcast. And Jesus, it has been a very long time. And a shitload has happened. So, we're going to go with something a little new this time. And I think it's going to be in a format that I think is comfortable for me and convenient, if you can't already tell in the title. But we're going to go with doing a podcast while I'm doing a sauna session. One, because of time, because I don't really have the ability to just take out a chunk out of my day to sit down and do this. Well, I do, but probably not really in the middle of the day. So we're going to try this. And the nice thing is I'm going to set the timer, because you have to do these. You usually do these with a timer set. So we're going to go at 140. Jesus, this is loud. For 30 minutes. And there we go. And when the timer runs out, I'm disgusting, and then I'm done. So we'll see how this goes. Alright, so episode 1, I guess. of the Sauna Sagas. Let's see, geez. Okay, I think the last time I did a podcast, we had just elected the president. That was the last thing I remember talking about. And holy shit, has it been a whirlwind since then. New presidents, new viruses, new protests, new words, new bad words, new ideas, good ideas, new innovations, and a whole lot of different family dynamics, at least for me. And I, for now, think that that topic intentionally will monopolize a lot of these episodes, because a lot has happened, and I think that it's important to share the awkward, confusing, and low times of your life in the appropriate ways, because one, it's very cathartic, and I know I need that. But for two, I believe that it's easy to feel that you're in a situation alone. And what helps is knowing that there's people out there that you can relate to. And from what I have experienced, and from what I think is a little bit of common knowledge, is that it's hard to share these things, and I think even harder when you're a man, to be honest. But I've always tried to express myself as best as I can. I grew up, honestly, pretty sensitive, but luckily I was always pushed to kind of express how I was feeling and talk it out. So my whole life I've talked out my issues, and I think that is, when I think back to it, I think that might be one of the biggest contributors to me not holding on to a lot of things, and then it translating into an outburst from trauma. Because one of the main definitions with trauma is something that happens to you and you don't feel that you can talk to someone about it or express it. And unfortunately, sometimes in those circumstances, people or predators or whatever you want to call it, they know that. So those are the kind of kids that they kind of go after, because those kids don't have anybody to talk to. And they know that, and that's good, because then they won't get ratted out. But because of that, they hold on to it. They don't know how to understand it, so then you just relive it in your adulthood. And it's obviously much more complicated than that. I'm not simplifying it to be dismissive. But yeah, so where the hell are we at? The heat gets me fucking loopy in here. So yeah, this is kind of my goal with this podcast, is to just get an episode in a week and just kind of explore a little bit of what's going on in the world around me, and to, I guess, bring up ideas and issues that I feel that are important, that I think maybe other people could relate to. And I'm going to try to be as gracefully vulnerable as I can in this, which has been, I've contemplated it, because it is uncomfortable kind of letting out your dirty laundry, I guess some would say. But I would just like to call it like a proxy circle of trust, where it doesn't really matter if there's a point of ridicule in anything that I say, but I'm going to treat it as something that will feel very therapeutic for me. And that doesn't mean that it's always going to be about something heavy. It could just be about something that I've observed or whatever it is. I fully understand that I am pretty opinionated, but I work very hard at trying not to be married to my very first judgment and opinion about something. Because, to be honest, I'm, in the end, usually wrong with my initial thought of things. So because of that, I've gotten myself to a point where I like to really dig into the weeds about a lot of things, because it serves me. And it's embarrassing, because it's kind of like, all right, you either don't have good instincts or you have bad gut feelings about things, and that's not a good thing. So my approach now is to sit back with a lot of my situations, and our situations, really, and to try to come up with a better foundation in my viewpoint about it. And that seems to be, I think, more difficult to do as of recently, because it seems to be more difficult to do, and it's kind of another big push, really, as to just doing this, because I still like to engage with people. I still enjoy using social media. I try to avoid the typical self-indulgent mechanism to it, because it's very easy to fall into it. You don't even know you're doing it. I still like using it, but I get very weary of wanting to engage in conversations, because if my point of view doesn't really match up or kind of fall in line with, I guess, the initial consensus of what people are chatting about, I get worried that I'm going to be looked at in the incorrect way, because I'm not able to really explain myself, and it's not always, some things are very black and white, but some things aren't. And when they're not, some things deserve more effort and time in their unpacking. And trying to write a couple sentences or even a couple paragraphs using Twitter or Facebook, people are going to check out. They're not going to read them. They're not going to read them. They're going to read them through a lens where they're going to assign you as something that you're not. So when they read it, they're going to spice it up with this attitude that matches how they want to see you, right? If that makes any sense. And that's not good, right? It's kind of like when you read a text and you're pissed off at somebody, And then the way you read it to yourself, it's like very aggressive because you think that they're talking back to you. Even if it's not aggressive at all, you can just spice it up with just your own perception of how you almost want them, or how you think that they're reacting to you. And I don't want that, but I still want to be engaged. So I'm going to do my best to do that with this, whether it's with anything: politics, religion, mental health, my own personal journeys, my friendships, the things that I think I have learned and I'm still learning through a very difficult time in the last couple of years. And I hope people understand where I'm talking from. And I just think it's important, because I sit here and spout about how we need to communicate better, and how we need to use language better, and how I wish we could get along even if we have very different ideas. But I'm not doing anything about it to show how you can do that, because I'm not going to sit here and go back and forth using social media to get a certain point across or whatever. And I know that this thing has its own limitations too, right? Because it's only me. No one's talking to me. No one's throwing anything back at me to kind of engage in like an actual conversation, to break down what my thoughts are, so that's important too. So if this thing kind of gets anywhere and I share it, I hope that my friends and whoever else kind of gives me some feedback, and it allows us to have more conversations. And it allows me to really change my mind, right? I said at the beginning of this, I'm not married to a lot of these things. And the more that my thoughts kind of run through a grinder, the better the outcome is. The more solid and more well understood thought that I have. And I feel like if we all kind of treated it like that, in the end, the end result of all these ideas would match up a little bit. We would all kind of agree to a certain point, because then they wouldn't be so layered with our own personal biases. And those come from experience and all these things, and what we read and who we listen to. And there's value in all that too, but you as an individual, as your own person, it's good to be humbled, as long as somebody's not being a total dipshit to you. It's good to be humbled. It's nice to know that you can be wrong and come back and formulate a better way of looking at something. And it's important that your friends do that to you too. You can go a long time with not having anybody tell you otherwise. And I would question if those are really good friends, because they're just letting you act a fool. And no one's telling you to take a back seat for a second and look at something. Jesus, it's hot. We're sweating now, though. What are we, 15 minutes in? So, this isn't. I hope I enjoy this. I think I will enjoy this. I need to get back in the groove of being able to even speak off the cuff. I need to dust off a lot of my vocabulary, because I tell you what, when I stopped doing that podcast, it's like cognitively, it's like my brain just went downhill and tripped over its own foot and smashed its nose and had a couple teeth fall out, because I couldn't say shit. holding a conversation and just speaking is obviously just such a muscle to consistently work out and flex, and that part of that part of your thinking can definitely get corroded, and it can atrophy. So I miss doing this just for me to be able to test my ability to speak. And I want that. I need that. Because as I said before, when you're kind of a sensitive kid, a sensitive adult, there's a lot of things in that don't really serve you. And one part that doesn't serve you is your inability to kind of express a lot of what you're feeling. And if you don't have the right tools and the right words, then you're just not going to bother sharing anything, which then just kind of puts you in a cycle and perpetuates more sensitivity and confusion and all of that. And I just want to be able to better express myself. Because the more I can do that, the less I hold on to. That's really the goal for me with at least this, to entertain myself and to just let go of a lot of stuff. But yes, damn, this is hot. I tell you what, I think purchasing this sauna, I've mentioned this before, I think purchasing this sauna is probably one of the best things I've ever done. Ever. It is such a hack when it comes to your health, and in just so many ways. And I never used to be like kind of health crazy, none of that. Like, I was the first one getting down with a foot-long steak and cheese, double cheese, with a side of ice and fucking Jack Daniels almost every other day. I have stretch marks that can tell you stories upon stories of binge nights. That was my life. That was a part of my life. And the reason that rose to the surface so often was because, I lived a life of playing music and being around your friends and getting high off of stage time and creating music and just being creative in general. And really just being at that age where you just didn't give a shit and nothing hurt you, But obviously as you get older, you care more, you mature more. You see how much more difficult it is to kind of get into the shape that you think you want to get into. So to kind of aid that recently, I was like, I'm going to get one of these saunas. It's tough sitting in one, like the regular ones, where your head's in there, it's a whole bench, everything. Because the breathing part is difficult. And yes, maybe that one's good too, but since this one, it's just a tent. It's like a little tent. It's got a little camping chair, little hole on the top where your head sticks out. I can breathe easy. You still sweat from your forehead, but your body's getting all of the heat. You use these infrared panels, and they help to kind of elevate your internal temperature. So it's not so much the space really that's that hot. It's kind of what it does to your core temperature, and then you slowly start to sweat, I'd say like 5-10 minutes in. And it's just good because with a lot of the things that have been going on with me in the last couple of years, exercise has 100% been the thing I've been able to fall back on to be able to get me out of these really bad mental states. And it's incredible. And I could go on and on about the process of how that actually helps me and what it feels like. So because of that, exercise became very important. And some days you really can't, some days you just can't exercise. You're too tired, or there's just not enough time, or, I don't know. You indulge and ate the wrong thing and now you feel like shit. So a workout is just out of the question. And if it isn't, if you can do it, it is absolutely half-assed because you're dragging. So a 20-minute, 30-minute session in one of these, an hour before you go to sleep, you get that cardiovascular kind of jump. You get some of those different mechanisms turning on in your body that mimic some exercise, and the sweating and all of that stuff. So it's a good mood booster too. But it's good when it's a decent replacement if you're not going to work out. There are no like muscle tissue gains other than better recovery with it. But to be able to get a lot of water weight out, and since it mimics an aspect of exercise, it also taps into kind of elevating your immune system, and it's accumulative. So the more you do it, the better off you are. And this is the first winter in, I can't even tell you, at least over 10 years, I didn't get sick once. I usually get at least a cold, haven't gotten sick once. And when I did feel something coming on, whether it was some head pressure or whatever, I would get in this, crank it up, and that symptom would be gone by the next day. And that's happened at least a handful of times. So it's enough where it's convinced me that it's not luck of the draw, where in the moment I just felt something small and it would have went away on its own. I really do think that this is a huge attributor to it. So I'm very happy with this thing. And it's appropriate that I spend time in this instead of surfing YouTube and, entertaining myself, which is fine, but to use the time in this a little more constructive, in a more constructive way. Because I think I really need this right now. I need both of these things. But I really want to get back to doing a podcast, even if like only one person listens to it. I just like being creative. I've always been such a creative person with all the things and hobbies that I've pursued, that when they, it's easy for them to kind of fall away when you get more responsibility and as you get older. And to me, that's just unacceptable. It's incredibly unacceptable. And I understand that some people don't have time for hobbies, but it should be an aspect that you should look at if your life isn't going the way you want it to. Because there are ways to stimulate your life that can mitigate and buffer some of these hard times. Or just consistent feeling of dissatisfaction. And I believe a lot of people feel that way and they don't really even want to admit it to themselves. So hobbies, no matter how big they are, to me are literal lifesavers. And I've always had one. So I'm just kind of in this momentum of just not knowing any different. Whether it was physical, I took up jiu-jitsu, one of the greatest hobbies I ever took up, or it was music, or it was podcasting. I used to draw a lot. I did woodworking. It just, one thing after the other, they all served their purpose at the perfect time. And without it, I don't know where I would be. So anyways, yes, this is a perfect time to do a podcast when I'm in the goddamn sauna. And I love this thing. God damn, I'm sweating. Sometimes it gets to a point where you really are just kind of disgusted with yourself. Because you're just so sweaty. You're like, I need to get the fuck out of this thing. But that's the whole point. You know, it's not cute when you're walking through your house all glossed up and dripping all over the place. It's not cute. But I guess it's necessary. What we got on this time? So, I mean, I'm excited. I'm excited to get this going. I'm excited to share this with you guys. There's a lot to share. We're in a very strange time right now. And we're all home, I think, a little more than we used to be. So a sense of connection, I think, is important right now. Because whether you're following the rules or not following the rules, with everything that's going on with this COVID-19 thing, I think that we're interacting less, and there are things building up more and more. And if we don't have enough outlets to be able to just share with our friends, we have more you have more likelihood to start becoming very reactive, whether it's to strangers or your own family or whatever, because shit is tough right now. Whether it's with your work or you're around your family too much, that can happen. You can love them, but if you're with them for months and months at a time, you're like, oh, this is why we go to work. This is why I get 8 hours away. I get it. I totally get it. But in the end, hopefully, maybe that's something that you can transform into, I guess, understanding your family dynamics better. And maybe having a different kind of appreciation for it. I don't know. So we'll see where this goes. This went nowhere, but these are how these are going to be. And I'm going to share them, and they're going to be from me, and I hope somebody likes it. And if they don't, then they don't. But I enjoy it, and I need it. So I miss a lot of you. I hope everybody's doing well, finding ways to pass the time in a positive way. And I hope that we all can still remember that we're not alone in whatever is going on right now, personally. So don't forget to reach out. Don't forget to, at the very least, text if you're bored, or if you're hurting, or if you just miss somebody. So to me, that's important. All right. The Sauna Sagas. I don't know what the fuck I'm going to call this. We'll just go with that. And if it changes, it changes. If this is cringy, it's cringy. But I'm a little cringy, so. All right, guys. Thank you, everyone.